Welcome to Amplifying Leadership, where we discuss all things leadership, like what it takes to be a great leader, challenges to overcome, and of course, tips to help leaders continually develop. My name is Tara Lehman, and I am a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services. I aim to provide effective leadership coaching, consulting, and our community to help you develop, retain those employees, and improve your bottom line. You can check it all out at our Amplifying Leadership division, amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Lexi Godlewski, who helps others, including leaders, experience the richness of life as a soultrepreneur. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So before we get into it, why don't you help our audience understand what a soultrepreneur is to you and where that came from?
You got it. So that really came from my journey as a leader, to be honest with you, to, wrap this full circle already. Being a soultrepreneur really means leading with your heart and soul first to pursue those dreams that you have. Use your gifts to make an impact, while at the same time building a business that positively impacts the world. So doing both at the same time so that you can experience all that life has to offer.
So people-centered, really, and
people-centered,
that type of, yeah,
heart-centered, very much so. And how do you create a life that you love and a business that you love at the same time that allows you to live the life of your dreams? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I love it. I love it. Well, why don't we start, as I love to start, is understanding what your leadership story is, where you came from, where you are now.
Totally. So I didn't know this at the time. Now looking back, my leadership journey really started when I was in high school. Now, after so many years have passed, I know that at my core, I consider myself to be a transformer. There's a variety of times that I've transformed my life as well as my business. And now I really bring that work into the work that I do with clients. But back when I was in high school, I didn't know this. And so I was in some pretty low moments in high school. And at the time, mental health was not a part of the conversation as it is today. And I was feeling really lost, and I was just feeling really unsure of where to put my energy, where to put my time, where do I belong, everything like that. And I really had what I consider to be a miracle happen to me when I was a sophomore in high school. Someone in my high school had nominated me for this leadership conference. And I still to this day have no idea who nominated me, because it would be teachers and faculty that would nominate students privately. And so you have no idea who would nominate you. But
wow.
They had someone nominate me for this weekend-long leadership conference. And how it worked is, originally I'm from upstate New York, and one student from every high school in our region would get nominated to go to this weekend-long leadership conference at a local college. And you'd learn how to hone in on your leadership skills, be a leader, meet people, everything like that. And so when I heard that I got nominated, I was so thrilled. I was like, oddly, a lot of people my age would be like, I don't want to go spend a weekend with strangers, learning about leadership. That sounds so lame, but I was so lit up by it. I was like, yes, awesome. I want to go. I want to do it. And so my parents dropped me off. Literally, it was 3 days away with a bunch of other sophomore students that I had never met before. And we learned how to be a leader, really. And we also did different things, leaning in towards entrepreneurship and how to start building your own business. And at the time, we built a little business over the weekend and all of this stuff. And that moment really changed my life, because up until then, I had not considered myself to be a leader. And then going to that conference really started to change my mindset and helped me view myself as a leader. So then after that, going back into my school and going back into my day-to-day, I really started to see myself as that. And as time went on, I then stepped into more leadership roles, whether that was academically or through athletics, becoming a captain, or through all the extracurriculars I was in. I really started to lean into this idea of being a leader, and it started to fulfill so much more in me, even just at that younger age. And so all throughout high school, that's really where I started to get the itch to want to be a leader and to want to help people and guide and that type of thing. And then I just brought that with me through college and afterwards into the workforce, and then starting my own business, and just continued to hone in and really just strengthen that muscle of being a leader.
You know what I love is that someone saw it in you, because we tend not to
Yeah.
see those things in ourselves, right? We're like, no, I'm not a leader, but somebody saw it in you. And it's too bad you
Yeah.
don't know who it is,
I
because
know. And
clearly it was
still
life
to this
changing.
day, I don't know who it is, but I'm so thankful for them. I'm so thankful that they saw that in me and that
Mm-hmm.
they nominated me, because that was like in my leadership journey, the pivot moment for me that really changed the game for me.
It clearly sounds like it too. And it's amazing opportunity that you had to do that, because so many of our young people don't get those opportunities
Totally.
and they don't see it. So that, I mean, if you're listening out there, leader, she
Yeah.
appreciates it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me ask you this. So when you got into the workforce, leadership's a little different. What were some of the obstacles that you faced in the different leadership of being in the workforce?
Yeah, it was really interesting because then all throughout college, again, like I'd mentioned, I really started to hone in on this idea of being a leader. So even in
Mm-hmm.
college, as a senior in my college dining hall, what I started doing was I would, in between work and classes and everything I had going on, I actually started coaching people in doing marketing, consulting and marketing projects for startups in my college dining hall, like between classes and everything
Wow.
like that. And so I really had this entrepreneurial nudge from the beginning. And at the time, it was more of a passion, driven side
Mm-hmm.
hustle than it was anything. And then when I graduated and I got into the workforce, and then I experienced, leadership in that realm, it was so different. And what I found so interesting in that first position that I was in is that a lot of the leaders above me saw that I was an innate leader, and they would
Mm-hmm.
put a lot of their tasks on me, to be honest with you. So there were a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when my director or people, steps above me
Mm-hmm.
should have been the one presenting in a meeting, but instead they knew that I was a strong presenter. So they would be like, Lexi, go ahead.
Let you
Like,
do it.
Lexi, go lead. Yeah, go do it. And so it was interesting because I love doing that type of thing. So I didn't mind it, but it also kind of like kept that fire going in my mind
Mm-hmm.
and in my heart to think like, okay, like people see something in me that I might not see in myself. It's that same thing that we were talking about of like,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be so beneficial to have those people who mirror that back to you, because you live with yourself every day. You know what I mean? You're
Yes.
so used to
Yes.
being in your own head, and you forget that the things that come so naturally to you are unique to other people. And sometimes we need that mirror to see that the things that we think are just no big deal or come so easily are actually unique gifts that we need to lean into and leverage even more and hone in on even more and use. And
Mm-hmm.
so being in the workforce, that helped me see that I do have these leadership qualities within me, and I wanted to explore them even more. I wanted to use them even more. And so that's really what propelled then me wanting to explore having my own business and saying like, okay, if I really do have these skills of being a leader and I want to start a podcast, or I want to help people in a different way or do these things, like I got to try it. I got to just see
Yeah.
what happens when I do. And so being in the workforce helped me see what skills of mine I wanted to use even more and I wanted to leverage even more, which I'm super thankful for.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had some awesome mentors, although it may not have
Yeah.
been very like a mentor program, but certainly some mentors who saw value in what you could do and allowed you to bring it out. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you think about some of those leaders out there who have those star employees, but they're not really thinking about bringing that out of them, what is a tip or something you could share to help mentoring those people that they see as stars? I want to say come out of their shell, but it doesn't mean they're an
Mhm.
introvert, but just like to try something new. Any tips or thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that coming from the place of understanding that everyone has unique talents, and it's a matter
Mm-hmm.
of how do you help them discover what that is and hone into it even more. If your employees love to do a certain thing, is there a way that you can hone in and like leverage that skill to maybe do the job in a different way, or how can they
Mm-hmm.
hone in on that skill and use it in the workforce or whatever it is? Because truthfully, everyone has these unique abilities and these unique strengths in each
Mm-hmm.
of us. It's just how do you help them hone in and see that that's a unique strength within them? Like, for example, people did with me around leadership.
Mm-hmm.
People saw that I loved to get in front of a room and speak. Like, it's something that I love to do. And so because of
Yeah.
that, my leaders would give me the tasks of like, okay, Lexi, go ahead and present this, go and do your thing. So is there a way that you can find what those unique things are and that's the funny thing too, is like, I was lit up to go in front of a room and speak, or maybe my director didn't love it as much, but he knew that I did. So he would task me that. So is there something that, by having the self-awareness in yourself of what you're good at, what you're not good at, what lights you up, what doesn't light you up? And can you help your employees discover those same things of discovering what is it that energizes them? What is it that lights them up? And how can you hone into that even more, and give them the space to lean into that and to use that skill in the workplace as well? Because if you can find those things that are really energy gainers versus energy drainers for your employees, like it's a totally different game when you're helping them step into and do more of the things that light them up versus the things that drain their energy.
And I like that you mentioned the idea of perhaps the leader doesn't like standing up in front of a group. That is not for everybody, but sometimes it is part of the job. What I like that you are bringing up is that we go on our strengths, not our weaknesses. Let's work together and use the strengths that our teams have and our employees have that we know they're passionate about, or they love doing, or they have excelled before. I mean, when you talk about talking in front of a group, just somebody who speaks up in a meeting or starts to lead one of those small team meetings, that they have weekly, for example, it might be that person for you. You've just got to really hone in on their strengths and then your strengths too, and let someone else help you with your weaknesses. I think as leaders, it's important that we recognize that as well, right?
Totally. And what I tell my clients all the time too is like right from the get-go, when I start working with people, I say, let's rip up the rule book and let's do things the way that you want to do them. And I would say in the workplace, like, don't be afraid to do that too, in terms of like, don't be afraid to do things differently. Don't be afraid to think outside of the box and think through like, okay, if I know that my employees' strengths are X, Y, and Z, how can we leverage that even more? Maybe we can start doing this or that or the other thing. Like, don't be afraid to think outside the box of how you've done things in the past, and instead start to lean into those strengths, because that's where the magic happens.
And I remember many, many moons ago when I was first in my career, I was given a project just to source a new photocopier. And it's because they saw something in my research abilities at the time, right? And that I could talk to people and vendors easily, and negotiation skills. And I didn't know I could do something like that before. And then it happened, right? So yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, mentoring our people to also understand that we know what their strengths are, we know what our weaknesses are, and we know that we can help each other. And I think leaders need to be okay to say, no, I don't have that skill, but hey, Lexi, you do. Do you want to take this on?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that.
So let me switch the conversation a little bit to the conversation around communication. Obviously a big part of leadership. And, when it comes to, from high school again to going into the workforce, completely different when it comes to leadership. What were some of the things that you noticed when you came into the workforce about communication that is key to being a leader compared to maybe what you saw before?
Great question. I always say one of the things that's helped me the most is almost learning how to over communicate with your team. And that is one of the things that in my career, both corporate as well as outside of corporate and in the entrepreneurial world, if you can communicate with your team very well, like that is going to save you so much time and headache and like running around in circles. Like I know that I had my team members and I who were locked in, where we would just send a simple message back and forth of where a project was at. And it was almost like when you are playing basketball, for example, and you're locked in with your teammates, where when your teammates open, you can pass them the ball and then you're going to move and they're going to pass it back. We had it dialed in like that, where we just knew like, all right, I'm going to pass you the ball. You're going to pass it back to me. And if you can get your communication dialed in where it almost feels like to you, it's probably going to feel like an over communication of like, why do I have to tell them all these different things? But I found that the more that I started to do that, the better of a groove I got into with my teammates, and the better that we knew each other and how we worked, and also what to expect, where projects were at, what the latest status was for all these things. And we were really able to work like a well-oiled machine and like a practice team versus being in the mindset of just being in your own individual world or in your own individual job. We were really locked in of understanding where each other was at. And so I think the biggest tip is like, if you feel like you're over communicating with your team, you're probably doing it right. And you could probably even take another step past that. So don't be afraid to really share the things that are going on, and have that deep communication with your team, because it's only going to help you and make the team stronger, to be honest with you.
So I have a quick question for you. I mean,
Yeah.
with most teams, there's that at least one person who isn't really a team player. I mean, they are put on the team because they have a great skill or whatever that might be, but they're not necessarily part of your well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
How do you communicate with them differently so that they do still, contribute as they need to, but also feel as part of the team, maybe when they don't even want to? Am I making sense with the question?
Yeah, totally. And for me, what it always comes back to is understanding that no matter what the team scenario is, no matter what the team dynamics are, understanding at the end of the day, the only thing and the only person that you can control is yourself. And so there's going to be times when you walk into the meeting, you're having a great day, and there's a team member there who's having their worst day. You know what I mean? And you can't necessarily change that, but you can control the energy that you bring into the room. You can control how you interact with them. You can control if you say, hey, I know today's a tough day, but we're going to get through this. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Like, let me know when you want to talk. Like, you're able to control how you bring yourself into the situation and what you say or what you do to either help or hurt the situation. And so for me, it always comes back to, there's going to be people who maybe aren't thrilled to be there, or they're having an off day, or they are adding resistance to something, whatever it is, and understanding that you can only control that to an extent, but really at the end of the day, what you always have control over is yourself and your energy and your effort and your action and your mindset and what you bring to the table. So what I always suggest to leaders is, how are you showing up, and how can you be the change that you want to see with your team, and how can you be the one to inspire that change that you want to see as well? Like, I know when I wanted to have more communication with my team members, then I started to communicate more, and I started to just be the leader in that versus waiting for someone else to step up to the game and make the changes I want to see. I chose to be the person who did that. And so my really greatest advice for that is, be the person that you wish you had on your team, or be the person the role model that you want to have on your team, and choose to be that person first, instead of waiting for someone else to take that responsibility.
And I think it was Gandhi who said as well, like, be the change you want to see in this world. And you allude to that, because really, if there is somebody who is having a rough day or doesn't want to be there, you exuding the behavior that you want to see from them. I mean, all we can do is change ourselves, right? We can't change anybody else. We can't change their belief systems, nothing, but we can certainly change how we react to a situation. Or like you said, leading by example. That's a huge one. Absolutely lead by example. Over communicate if they're not communicating. Ask for feedback, whatever that is, right?
And don't be afraid to do that, because I think that there's a lot of people who think like, how much of a difference is this really going to make if I just ask this person how they're doing, or how much of a difference is it really going to be for me to just send out this email or send this message? And I want to challenge the listeners to like rethink that and understand that the way that you show up into a room, the energy that you bring, the words that you use, they all have meaning and they all have impact. And so even though something may seem so little to you, like I would bet you that the person who nominated me for that leadership retreat does not remember that at all. I would like, I'm sure that they have totally forgotten about that, but I haven't. And that was probably such a small thing for them to put my name down on a list somewhere. But for me, it changed my entire life. Huge. So don't underestimate those little actions, because they could be life-changing for someone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that story. I might have to share that story out.
I love that. Yeah, go for it.
So let me ask you this. I mean, when new leaders come into a workplace and they're not familiar with how people communicate in that workspace, because workplaces can be different in how they communicate, how can they start to integrate themselves as part of the team as a leader, especially if maybe their communication is a little bit different? What are your thoughts around that?
Totally. That's a good question. And I think that it's a mix of both give and take in the leadership world. I think that a lot of times experienced leaders can get stuck in their ways where they know, okay, this has worked in the past, or this is what I've been taught. And like, so this is how we have to do things. And then a lot of times when the younger people come in, they're trying to bring a new way of doing things. And so I think that if we can find this blend of the young learning from the experienced and the experienced learning from the young, there's like a really powerful magic that could happen there.
Yeah.
If we start to really listen and learn from each other versus just the traditional kind of mentor mentee role of here's how we've always done things, so here's how we have to do things. Like, I think if we can create this world where it's like really just learning from each other, and back to our conversation earlier of understanding that everyone brings different strengths with them to the table. So the more that we can be self-aware with ourselves of what our strengths are, and we can help others discover what their strengths are and just be on their team and help show them that they can do it. Like, a lot of times all you need is just one person to believe in you. You know what I mean? So many times on this journey, no matter what chapter it was, I got there because I just had one person at least that said, Lexi, you know what, you could really do this. Like, I really believe in you. And sometimes that's all you need. And so making it a little bit less black and white, I think, and starting to learn from each other of the younger people, having the openness to see how things have been done in the past, but also more experienced leaders being open to see, okay, is there a new, better, more efficient way that this can be done, or a fun way, or that type of thing. And so learning from both, I think, would be really, really incredible to watch.
And I love that too, because I mean, how many workplaces out there you get that one person who, you know, comes in new and they want to try and change something, and you hear those people say, but we don't do that way here.
Totally.
But that doesn't mean that what you do right now is perfect. It doesn't mean that what that new person's bringing in is perfect. It means maybe those efficiencies, as you mentioned, and processes are somewhere in the middle, right? Learning from each other.
My biggest challenge to the leaders listening is like, don't just say no to any new ideas. Like, keep an open mind to new ways that things can be done. Because I can tell you, to be honest with you, when I first got into the workforce after college, I was that young, bright, energetic worker where I wanted to not change everything, but bring fresh ideas. And I would pitch new ideas and say, what if we did this instead? What if we did that instead? What if we tried this? And the leadership above me turned them all down. And they're like, no, that's not how we've done things in the past. No, that's not possible. No, we can't do that. No. And I just started receiving no so many times versus just even, there was no even open conversation of like, maybe, you know, it was just automatically,
or let me hear you.
and so because of that, I just shut it down. And I said, well, if I'm just going to keep getting told no, then why should I keep pitching all these ideas, which I think did a disservice to the team and the company as a whole, because we could have added so much more magic and we could have done so many more things and added so much more creativity in X, Y, and Z. So my message to leaders is like, keep an open mind and create a space where young leaders can still pitch their ideas. Even if you don't go through with them, that's okay. Or even if it's, you know, not possible or whatever it is, but give them the space where they can really lean into, again, those strengths, or aren't afraid to pitch their ideas, or aren't afraid to share with you what they're thinking or what they're feeling, because that's where the magic happens right there. But if you shut that down, they're not going to want to share with you. And then there's not going to be magic that's made.
Absolutely. And they may have something that you just can't do. It could be budget, it could be something else, but that doesn't mean a part of it isn't possible to help improve a process or bring an efficiency in or find a new customer, whatever that is, right? So allowing people to be heard and actually listening to what they have to say for ideas. And then if they can't be done, explaining the why. Because we need to know the whys, right? That's what humans love, the answer to why. I was talking to someone else about that earlier today. So I think that's a key point that you have, is to let's listen. Let's just take it in, because there could be something there. Not always, but there could be something there. Yeah. Learn from each other. I think that is something,
I love that.
Sure.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's something that the younger generations are really craving, to be honest with you. Like, I have a lot of conversations with my friends about how we want mentors, and we want people from all ages in our life because we learn from all of them, and we learn from everyone and what they bring to the table and their strengths and everything like that. And so don't be afraid, to learn from each other, and just keep an open ear and keep this openness so that you can really learn from other people's experiences as well and strengthen what they bring to the table.
And it'll be amazing what you might see transform, your word from earlier today, in your business or even your profit line, retention, all those types of things. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. What would be your key takeaway for our audience today from our conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that I truly believe that the world needs more true leaders now than ever before. So my biggest takeaway for listeners is I hope that, I mean, if you're listening, you're definitely a leader. And so I hope that you don't dim your leadership or the dreams that you have or the things you want to do to try and fit in with other people, because the world needs you now more than ever before. So just lean into and own and continue to strengthen the muscle of being a leader, because the world needs it right now. And so don't underestimate those little things that you do every day and the impact that they can make, because just one little thing, like I said, whoever put my name in when I was in high school, that changed my life. Absolutely. Totally, 100%. And so don't underestimate those little things that you do day in and day out. Don't underestimate the energy that you bring into the workplace, into your family when you get back home, into your employees, because that really does make a difference. Like, your employees are watching you as a leader. How do you want to be showing up, and how do you want to be impacting them? And just remember that, and just really own the fact that you're a leader, and just do it. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. That is a great key takeaway. Thank you very much for sharing all your ideas and tips today. If our audience wants to learn more about you, Lexi, how can they find you online?
Totally. You can find me on my website is lexigodlewski.com, or my handle on all major social media platforms is at Lexi Godlewski. And then I have a free training about how you can start creating a life you love. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to transformwithsoul.com.
Awesome. And to spell her last name is Godlewski. Thanks again for joining me.
I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to our listeners, of course. We hope you gained some key takeaways and tips during our episode today. If you are in need of some leadership coaching, consulting, or to learn more about our community, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. That's .ca for Canada. It's a twin-led coaching and business services division. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader or leader to be.